So our actions have led to the appearance of an Iconian gateway in the Duret system, the Azure sector of the Beta Quadrant, near the new Romulan homeworld. The emergence of this relic, the tale leading up to it, and the following conflict from the Alachi all but confirms that the Iconians are returning. In the face of this revelation, the Klingon Federation war has taken a back seat, and the two powers have agreed to work together concerning this gateway. This feat has been made possible by the Romulan Republic, which has maintained alliances with both the Klingons and the Federation, and as this gateway is in their space and represents a great trove of technology, the only way to get it is to play nice. It wasn't long before a joint command mission took a trip through the gateway and found themselves in the most unexpected location. A DYSON sphere, a megastructure 1 astronomic unit in radius, with an ecosystem on the inside of the sphere capturing all the energy of the host star. A nearby control tower was quickly settled by the team and became the DYSON Joint Command, led by the Romulan Republic Liaison Sub-Commander Cole. Complicating matters further was the detection of the Omega Particle, which Starfleet is duty-bound to contain and destroy. This sphere has been named the Solane Dyson Sphere to distinguish it from the one reported on in 2369 by the USS Enterprise D. Interestingly enough, the USS Callisto, a lunar-class vessel, had been assigned to explore the Delta Quadrant along its Beta Quadrant edge. At extreme range, it detected an unscannable area of space, termed the unidentified object Solar Alpha 6, and on closer investigation discovered this selfsame sphere, but being 30,000 light-years from Earth, all they could do was scan it and report back. Exploration of this sphere has been slow for several reasons. The first is that the sphere is already occupied by the Voth, and the other is more mundane, in that the Allied command is having some teething problems. One of which is likely Starfleet throwing its weight behind the desire to neutralise Omega. Speaking to the chief scientist, we learn that the Solane Dyson sphere seems to be producing Omega particles, and not in small quantities either. One particle can render warp drive inoperable across a 14 light-year stretch. The amount this sphere is producing is beyond insane. The Romulan Republic and the Klingon Empire is in agreement, at least, that this is too big of a risk to allow remaining unchecked, and the plan is to locate the production facilities and shut them down while destroying all the particles currently in existence.
Welcome to the Solane Dyson Sphere. My name is Sub-Commander Cole. This is the main command center for Joint Alliance Command, a multi-species task force willing to work together toward a common goal, for now at least. The gateway you use to get here is in Republic space, so the Republic is taking the lead here as well. Our mission? To destroy the Omega particles this sphere creates, and neutralize its ability to generate more. The first scouts into the sphere confirmed that it was producing massive amounts of Omega particles for an unknown purpose. Given enough time, this sphere could produce enough Omega particles to completely annihilate warp travel in all known quadrants of the galaxy. We thought this would be a sweep and clear operation, but we were waylaid by a species known as the Voth. The Voth claim to be natives of the Delta Quadrant, are extremely technologically advanced, and they want the sphere. Now we're in a fight for control. The Voth are determined to gather the Omega particles. We're still determining why, but this is a threat to all warp-capable civilizations. I can't stress enough how important it is that we stop the Voth and neutralize the Omega particles. There's a lot to do. Shall we get started? We run missions here from Joint Command, the center of all Allied operations. This is the supply depot. We use it to ship supplies to our forces and to store any unusual or dangerous technologies we find here. This region is the minefield. It is used as a barrier to keep Voth forces out, although some still slip by. And this is the ion stream, a series of structures moving a high volume of charged particles and exotic radiation through the area. Each of these areas could use your help. Good luck.
At first glance, it feels as if we're in low orbit of a planet, perhaps even in the low stratosphere, with the sun glaring down on us from the heavens. However, this is an illusion created by scale. The star is contained, trapped within this sphere. Endless ground expands below us, curving along the inside of the structure in a scale far bigger than anything we've seen before. I mean, there are entire cities down there on the surface area of 550 million Earths. Yeah. It's big. The towers all around us too would be considered megastructures by themselves. As they reach so high up, they'd be better termed space scrapers than skyscrapers. I mean, this scale is almost unfathomable. The DYSON Joint Command is operating under the assumption that this sphere is not Voth, and from the architectural similarities with the Obelisk 1 drone carrier we commandeered from the Solanae, we can assume it was built by the Iconians or one of their servitor races, the current favourites being the Solanae. The time frame for this mission must be several days, perhaps even weeks after the initial discovery of the direct gateway that leads here, what with the establishment of front lines against the Voth, and from the way we were briefed it suggests that the Armiger was not involved with the scouting of the sphere. I actually like this. It makes it feel like we're part of the Federation machine and that it's not just us doing everything. It is Starfleet, after all. Now that we are here, however, we will be undertaking a series of missions to help secure Command's presence here. The first of which will be to aid out in alleviating the supply troubles of Allied forces by dealing with a series of minor issues across Command's territory. We can start by locating some cloaked Voth starships lying in wait by the supply depot. Unfortunately, the simple act of letting them know we can detect their interphasic cloaks isn't enough to deter them, and combat ensues. Interphasic cloaks are more advanced than the Romulan cloaking devices and work by bringing the vessel out of alignment with our realm as opposed to simply bending light around the concealed object. But for Starfleet, however, renowned for its advanced sensor systems fueled by continual curiosity, it's actually easier to detect and locate these sorts of distortions than the traditional cloaking device. Being in the heart of Allied not space, it's frequent that we will receive help of passing Allied patrols going about their own assignments. With the depot secured, we traverse the zone to the ion stream section to conduct some house cleaning. Niacine gas clouds have been released by a damaged containment unit, and niacine is corrosive in nature. We are to neutralise the gas pockets before they make their way to the ground, where they may damage the structural integrity of the sphere or create navigational hazards. Honestly, is it too much to ask for people to clean up after themselves? I bet Scaverin's going to be happy that now he's got to send a scrubbing crew out to the primary hole. The Uss Hypatia has been assigned to study the streams of particles that crisscross this section, and is a Vesta-class starship similar in design to the USS Aventine, captained by Ezri Dax. The Hypatia has discerned that the ion streams can be tapped for energy and have the power delivered to other locations, like charging a battery, and they request us to do just that. Grabbing as much as we can, we then set our sights on the minefield at the edge of our secured territory to supply the minefield tower with power. Alongside the mines, a haphazard energy barrier has been erected to create a palisade. It could be that the batteries we are delivering are sustaining this barrier. The Federation is against the use of mines generally, however the IKS Kuvbath of the Klingon Defence Force oversees this operation and makes me think that this is therefore a Klingon initiative. Oh, how immoral of them to use a minefield to deter the Voth, but here's those power cells you requested. Keep it up, love Starfleet. Well, at least these mines are visible, unlike Romulan mines or Jem'Hadar Houdini's. And these ones aren't self-replicating like the ones Starfleet sprayed all over the Bajoran wormhole. So I guess the Federation shouldn't be too hypocritical. As it is, some of those mines have stopped working and the Armiger has to cross this barrier to investigate and rearm them if possible. As we do, we see that the atmosphere changes considerably. The dusty green hues create a fog of war reminiscent of a no man's land between the trenches of the Voth and Command. It seems that this barrier has an added benefit of filtering whatever gaseous compound is permeating the lands beyond the wall. Suspended in the microgravity is the wreckage of many a vessel that attempted to tackle the defensive perimeter and was caught out. One mine we locate has been remotely disabled, perhaps by a lucky Voth ship, and another has simply been poorly assembled and just failed. As we traverse the fog, a not so distant explosion reminds us that we are in an active combat zone. We also located a stranded Republic warbird that is venting dried plasma and are able to provide medical assistance so that they can get themselves underway again. Tarsi scans the final mine and realises her mistake. She detects residual transporter traces and declares that the Voth have been able to disable the mines by beaming out critical components. We report our findings to Sub-Commander Cole, who then asks us to report back for further assignment, and we gladly turn the Armiger around and head back to safe space. It is surprising then to receive a transmission from Admiral Quinn.
The Solanae Dyson sphere holds many mysteries, and many enemies. We need to halt the advance of the Voth there before they accidentally cause a disaster with the Omega particles found throughout the sphere. Task forces are assembling now to fight against a Voth Citadel ship and to protect our own operations in the sphere. Help one of our teams to keep the sphere secure.
The Voth fortress ship is vulnerable. It's time to attack. Our plan is death by 1,000 cuts. We'll disrupt the fortress ship's integrity field by destroying multiple nodes across the hull. Once that's complete, breach the hull and attack from the inside. Use the trenches to navigate at speed around the fortress ship.
We have to undertake a daring mission to bring down a Voth fortress, and we are partnered up with a task force of ships to accomplish this. The Voth fortress is a large vessel that is more akin to a mobile space station than a vessel, and the mission sees us fly around the edges of the vessel in a sort of trench run before penetrating the interior to destabilise the core. Along the way there is severe resistance, and it's an exhilarating ride to be sure, but spoilers, I haven't played this operation in a while and kind of forgot what to do. We won, but I was more concerned with capturing footage than actively contributing, so sorry to my fellow task group members.
The Solanae Dyson sphere is going to be a hotbed of conflict for a long time. Check in when the opportunity permits, and don't let the Omega particles fall into the wrong hands.
This is the contested zone. Our forces here are in a constant conflict with the Voth. There are 5 fronts in the zone, and each of them need your help. Here, we are fighting the Voth over towers that are critical to our control of the zone. I would advise you help only if you have other starships to provide support. In the center of the contested zone is the battle zone. Commander Arnold is leading the ground fight there against the Voth. He needs anyone who's willing to assist. Make no mistake about this. The contested zone is an active conflict. Be careful out there.
In this area, beyond the Allied defensive perimeter, is where the battles are being fought in earnest. We make our way, unobstructed, to the central complex of the area, a large 4-pillared tower with a cityscape cradled beneath it. The metal hulls of the sphere's structures here are weathered and ancient in comparison to the cleaner zones beyond our makeshift barrier, and I'm unsure if it's time or the active combat that has taken its toll on the architecture.
This is the Voth battle zone. Our goal is to take control of at least one Omega particle silo. Here's how we do it. This is a map of the battle zone. There are 3 regions, each made up of multiple capture points. When the Voth hold a capture point, it is red. When we take control of a capture point, it will change to blue. Capturing points advances us towards our goal, represented by this meter. When it is full, we can make our final push to stop the Voth at the Omega particle silos. We must capture at least one of these silos to claim this battle zone for the Alliance. Good luck.
The terse brief comes at the hands of a hardened Starfleet Marine who's been fighting here for longer than almost anyone. Sub-Commander Cole reiterates the details of the missions and sends us out. We have identified production facilities of the Omega particle down here, and we need to secure the sites. As the Omega Directive supersedes the Prime Directive, Starfleet is operating with impunity in this area. Honestly, I don't think the Prime Directive would come into play here anyway, as the Voth are not the proprietors of this sphere, and diplomatic solutions appear to be very far from their mind. We are, after all, caught up in somewhat of an arms race. The Voth are capable of calling down advanced mech suits as artillery, but they shouldn't prove too much hassle as long as you can heal up from the damage. As briefed, the battle zone has 3 Omega silos in the north, south and east battlefields. Each area has been divided up into zones with specific objectives to fulfill to wrest control of the area from the Voth. Doing so will mark the area on the map as Alliance territory, though pushes from the Voth can re-establish their dominance in a sector. Once we have control of all the zones in one area, the silo is ours. Objectives include disabling Voth anti-air by deactivating generators, capturing control points by holding your ground against waves of enemies of increasing threat, and powering devices that the Voth are trying to usurp control of. Honestly, there's plenty of variety here, and it feels like you are making progress as you see the map gradually turn from red to blue. Running between the objectives gives me time to enjoy the scenery, and walking among these towering peaks of unfamiliar materials feels almost arcane. It's said that any technology sufficiently advanced from what you understand is indistinguishable from magic, and flying over it all in a starship is one thing, but being a tiny mortal on the ground of it brings a whole new scale and perspective. We could study this place for years. There's so much to learn here and to reverse engineer. On completion of all the zones, a new threat is dropped on us by the Voth, the appropriately named V-Rex, or Viriosaurus Rex. I tried to find out what the name meant, but I could only find the Latin for verdant and green being Virio with an E, so it could just mean a green lizard king. I'll be doing a video on the STO depiction of the Voth later in the series that will include the V-Rex, as I missed most of the fight this time and only arrived in time to fire off a couple of shots before it was felled. This entire contested zone experience is not required to continue the plot, and the area resets with the acquisition of an Omega silo after a couple of minutes, so there's plenty of time to try again. Meanwhile, in the skies above the silos, the Alliance seeks to retain its hold on 4 towers being used to control the sphere's systems. As part of our missions, we are also tasked with patrolling these towers and driving off any Voth threats. This can be a long affair and goes by much more quickly with support, as you need to destroy a certain amount to get credit for the victories before the percentage will increase. There's a lot to do here, and often this place is a flurry of activity. But, well, it's also slightly tragic, isn't it? This is an ancient structure veiled in mystery, and here we are now, replacing that with the fog of war. Once our forays into the contested zone are completed, we are called to return to the safety of Alliance space within this contained conflict. All this chaos is running amok within the ancient shell of a civilization so far beyond our own. Still, if Starfleet, the Klingons and the Romulans can put aside their enmity of each other in favour of unearthing these mysteries, perhaps there's hope for the Voth too. The Solanae Dyson Sphere is the second such structure discovered by Starfleet, but the first to be so active in both function and the races present. It's a shame that we can't just be dedicated to studying it and learning from the species that constructed it, but the use of Omega particles here cannot be ignored. Sure, the sphere has been using them, maybe as a power source, for millennia without incident, but now the Voth are trying to mimic the technology, and although mighty, they risk the decimation of subspace and the collapse of interstellar travel. So we cannot permit them to continue, and unwilling to talk as they are, conflict ends up being our only option. Plus, let's not forget why we are here. Time is of the essence now, as the shadow cast by demons of air and darkness returns, and we all need answers. The best we can do now is ensure that this alliance doesn't end with the neutralization of Omega, and then maybe we can get back to studying this marvel. I hope to see you back for the next part of the ever-expanding narrative of Star Trek Online, as we try to tame this sphere. Until then, however, I've been Rick, and I hope to see you next time for the next part as we build towards the return of an ancient power. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.